Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
Breaking at 8 o'clock, it is a busy morning commute. I'm tracking delays all over the Triangle. I'll show you the biggest problems and how to avoid them.
Shooting and killing a UNC professor in August is expected in court this morning. What we are expected to learn about him and this case today.
And our temperatures are starting to bounce up from mostly 30s in the 7 o'clock hour to mostly 40s this hour. I'll show you how warm it will be this afternoon. And I'm also tracking our next chance of rain late this week.
A parking lot full of parked cars at a local synagogue as about 100 people loaded up on buses to travel to D.C. Just ahead, I'm explaining their message of why they're participating in the March on Israel today.
A lot of news to get to for you on your Tuesday. Thank you so much for making us your choice for news. I'm Michelle McConaughey.
And I'm Jeff Hogan. Yeah, thanks so much for making us part of your day here Tuesday. We had a great sunrise. We're getting a little warmth started here in Elizabeth Gardner and the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Pretty average temperatures for this time of year expected.
Yes, our temperatures this morning were down in the 30s, now starting to creep on back into the 40s. We do have mostly clear skies here in Clinton, but you can see a little bit of high, thin cloud cover sort of near the horizon. The farther south you are, the more of that you'll likely see today. But the bulk of the day will feel sunny. It's just that we'll have some high, thin clouds and maybe a few overcast periods down to the south. Right now, we jump to 45 in the Triangle area. It's 45 in Fayetteville, 44 in Clinton, 42 Rocky Mount, 42 in Southern Pines. It is 32 in Roxborough, so still pretty chilly up there to the north of the Triangle. Our temperatures will climb into the mid-60s for highs this afternoon with a mix of sun and clouds. Tomorrow will be cloudier and noticeably cooler. And then Friday is the day that we're expecting our next round of rain. I'll walk you through it on Futurecast. Coming up, Brian.
All right, 8:02 right now, and it is a rough morning commute for many people as we take a look at those live sensors around the Triangle. A lot of red showing up out there. First of all, an update on a crash we've been following on 40 westbound in the RTP area between Page Road and Miami Boulevard. Latest update from the traffic sensors indicate that traffic's flowing a lot more freely through that area, but we're still seeing some lingering delays on 40 westbound, also on 540 westbound, trying to merge into that stalled traffic, and some slowdowns out toward 885. So let's take a look at how Durham is looking overall, those major approaches into Durham right now. And you can see those heavy delays coming in from Raleigh on 40 westbound, about an 11-minute backup as you head out to the airport and into South Durham on 40 westbound. Just need to allow plenty of extra time out there. And again, you're going to, if you take 540 westbound, which some people use as an alternate route there in the northwest side of Raleigh, you're seeing some backups approaching I-40. Some sun glare delays this morning on 40 eastbound with some backups from Chapel Hill, 15501 out to 885, about a 6-minute delay showing up on those sensors. Elsewhere, some of the usual delays are on 885 this morning between 147 and I-40. We've had at least one crash out on 440 westbound right around Six Forks Road, and there may be a second one around the Brentwood Road area. Seeing about a 12-minute delay on 440 westbound between 87 out to Wade Avenue. You can see it's pretty solidly backed up all the way out toward Glenwood and beyond. So there really are not too many great alternate routes there for getting onto 440 westbound. You're just going to have to deal with those delays. Looks like maybe that crash on 40 westbound between 42 and the Clayton bypass is cleared in the past couple of minutes. Still seeing some lingering backups right around the 42 interchange. Also on the north side of Raleigh, watch for a crash here in the past few minutes on Mitchell Mill Road near Forestville Road. Also another crash apparently with injuries over in Morrisville at Davis Drive at Little Drive, which is not too far from the 540 interchange. Want to show you those major approaches into Raleigh right now because we're picking up some heavy delays coming in from Knightdale. A 17-minute backup this morning on 87 southbound. That is just congestion as far as we can tell, and probably those delays on 440 are sort of contributing to those heavy backups coming in on 87 southbound. If you're getting into the car right now, listen to us on the radio. 99.3 FM in Raleigh, 96.5 FM in Durham as our live newscast continues there.
Thank you, Brian. New this morning, Raleigh police have made an arrest in a stabbing at the Glenwood Towers apartments. Police say they were called to the apartment building just before 10:30 last night. When they arrived, that's when they found a person with a minor stab wound. That person was taken to the hospital for treatment. Police also took a man into custody. They say the two men knew each other. And right now, a group of people from the Triangle's Jewish community are on their way to Washington, D.C. They'll join tens of thousands of people on the National Mall to show support for Israel. WRAL's Laura Levine is at the Temple Beth or synagogue in Raleigh. And Laura, they all just left a couple hours ago.
Yeah, around 6:30 a.m., Michelle, behind me, you can see the parking lot full of parked cars here. We actually saw State Capitol Police kind of riding around here as well, but they are traveling to Washington, D.C. Take a look at some of that video. You can see where they were loading up the bus, grabbing supplies. We also saw many people holding signs, some addressing hate and anti-Semitism, others calling for the release of those hostages. It's been over a month since the Hamas attack on Israel, and tens of thousands of people of Jewish faith are dropping everything today to head to D.C. to not only show support for Israel, but to also come together for one another. In D.C., they're going to hear from experts about the ongoing war and discuss the status of the humanitarian crisis. I spoke with Ashley Wolf, who is a college student who felt compelled to take this trip.
We're not anti-Palestinian, but that Hamas is a terrorist organization. So we're hoping that in the end of the day, we look forward to a better life where all Palestinians and all Israelis can live in peace and security together.
And that was Dr. Michael Ross, not Ashley. But again, we've been speaking with so many people involved in really getting that message out, calling for an end to this war as well. So that March for Israel is taking place from 1 to 3 p.m. on the National Mall in D.C. That group plans to travel back home tonight. They should arrive here around 11 o'clock. Laura Levine, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
That march is happening as today conditions at the largest hospital in Gaza are being called catastrophic as essential units have collapsed. According to the facility's director, premature babies are being wrapped in foil to keep them alive after being removed from incubators because the oxygen has run out. The Gaza Strip is also on the brink of communication blackout, with Palestinian officials warning that could happen by Thursday. Israel has claimed Hamas has command centers underneath those medical facilities.
Today, the man accused of killing a professor on the campus of UNC Chapel Hill back in August will be back in court. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey tells us what we can expect out of today's court appearance.
Tyler Chi will be back in the courtroom here in Orange County in just a few hours. Today is essentially going to be a status update on his case. Here's a look at video now of his last court appearance back in September. He's accused of killing UNC professor Zijie Yin on campus in August. During Chi's last court appearance, we learned he was found unfit for trial after a mental evaluation. He's received another evaluation since then. Today, we could find out those results. There's a couple of ways this could play out. One, he could be sent to a rehab to see if he could eventually be ready for trial. Then there's also a chance for discussions about whether he can be legally held responsible for this crime due to his mental state. So he's expected to appear in court later this morning. We'll have a crew there and keep you updated. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Orange County.
It's been nearly a year since 11-year-old Haley Brooks was killed during the Raleigh Christmas parade. WRAL's Deborah Morgan had a chance to sit down with the Brooks family in an emotional interview. Haley's mother, April Brooks, says her daughter was one of those types of children who made an impression on everyone she met. That day, the parade back in 2022, the Brooks family was so excited to continue a family tradition, attending the annual Raleigh Christmas parade. Her parents shared their shock and grief from the moment they learned Haley was gone.
We had no idea it was Haley. My parents were watching it live on television. My mom called both of our phones. She called me first, I didn't pick up. And Trey picked up. And she was just hysterical. And she said, I think a dancer was hit. I think it was Haley. She just said she just had this feeling it was her.
The Brooks would later learn the heartbreaking truth when they arrived at Wake Med Hospital. The family says support from their church, the community, the schools, and countless messages and prayers from all around the world is what's helped them through their darkest days. But they'll never forget a single moment of that day. Nobody will. Cary police are working to find the people responsible for breaking into several businesses. The break-ins happened early Monday morning. Police say a person used a large rock to break through the front doors and then stole cash from the registers. Businesses hit include Ganza Tacos and Tequila, Cary Pub, Totopos, and Brother of New York Pizza. Anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers.
Happening today, the Department of Transportation is celebrating the completion of work on the latest phase of the 401 widening project. Sky 5 flew over the newly completed construction near Lewisburg yesterday. Additional lanes have been added from NC 96 to Flat Rock Church Road in Franklin County. The DOT will have an official ribbon cutting for the new lanes at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Work on this project got started back in 2018. The next phase of the project, which will widen the road from Flat Rock Church Road to Fox Park Road in Lewisburg, that'll get started in 2031. Coming up, understanding rules on cruise ships is not always smooth sailing. Now cruise lines are clearing the air about recreational marijuana and if it's allowed on international waters.
Plus, Tupac Shakur is up for a Grammy nearly 30 years after he died. The nomination that could win the rapper his first Grammy Award.
And a pleasant start this morning. Temperatures are starting to climb on up into the 40s. We have sunshine here as we take a live look at Chapel Hill. But we'll begin to see increasing clouds as we get through the day, especially in our southern counties. We'll talk about when the rain arrives on Friday coming up.
14 is the time right now on your Tuesday morning, and you look at the blue skies over Southern Pines right there. That is Longleaf Golf and Family Club right there, and a little bit of activity out there, as you might imagine, as you're watching WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now. Love that look down there in Southern Pines. It's four of a kind right there for you.
Exactly. A lot of blue sky. Earlier this morning, there was some cloud cover in Fayetteville, but you can see that shadow there on Hay Street. So I think some of that cloud cover has begun to thin out a little bit. Chapel Hill's courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant. There is a little bit of high, thin cloud cover out there. It's just going to be a subtle change compared to yesterday. We take a look at Apex and Goldsboro. I mean, there's plenty of blue sky out there right now. Now, that all changes tomorrow as this low starts to develop and move closer to us. We'll start to cloud up a little bit, but the rain doesn't arrive until Friday. And then we also have a cold front that will come through. So that's going to push rain in from the east, and this cold front's going to sweep some rain in from the west. Maybe. This is what's happening right now. We have high pressure here. That is pushing cool air in, and you can see some cloud cover down south associated with the low that's in the Gulf of Mexico right now. So this one will move up the coast and help to spread some rain inland by lunchtime in our southeastern counties, and then it moves across the viewing area with the bulk of the rain east of I-95 during the late afternoon and evening on Friday. At the same time, that front in the mountains tries to push eastward, but this version of Futurecast has it falling apart. Yesterday, it did bring a little bit of light rain into our viewing area early Saturday, but the models have flip-flopped a little bit. This is the European model. It's a little drier. The American model is a little bit wetter for Saturday morning. So we continue to watch. We'll have lots and lots of runs of the computer model between now and late Friday. So just keep checking back. Now, it does seem like Friday evening with that low moving up the coast is going to be fairly wet. We have Friday night tree lightings. Downtown Raleigh, that's going to be right there at Memorial Auditorium. And then Waverly Place in Cary, 6 o'clock tree lightings. A nice temperature in the upper 60s, but there's a chance of some scattered showers. Raleigh Christmas Parade, the earlier in the morning it is, the more likely there is to be a little bit of light rain. At 8 a.m., we just have a 20% chance. The parade coverage begins at 9, and then, of course, the parade itself starts at 9:30. Temperatures will be close to 60, and then climbing into the upper 60s by the time the parade is over around noon. So for Friday, we have a 40% chance of rain. It'll be heavier the farther east you are, and then, you know, hopefully we won't see too much on Saturday. We just put the 20% chance in to cover the bases. A quarter to half an inch of rain, of course, across our viewing area on Friday, so it's not a lot. We also are watching this system. This one could become Vince and move up into the bigger islands of the Caribbean in the next few days. There's just a 70% chance that it develops, and so we'll be watching that closely. But at this point, it doesn't look like it would affect the United States. Friday will be the warmest day, but once that whole system moves out, we start to dry out and cool off over the weekend, all the way down to 56 for the high on Monday, Brian.
It is 8:17 on the dot right now as we take a look at traffic. Want to update you on some of these delays we're following. The good news on the map is that we're seeing fewer crashes, active crashes right now, but we're still seeing some lingering backups, including on 440 westbound. The delays from 87 out to Wade Avenue add up to about a 9-minute slowdown. Most of that right now is between 87 and Capitol Boulevard. Still seeing some heavy traffic as you head around the Glenwood Avenue area, but once you get to Lake Boone Trail and Wade Avenue, it looks like traffic's flowing a little more freely. So if you can pick up 440 westbound from Glenwood, you should be in pretty good shape. Take a look at those major approaches into Raleigh. A lot of improvement coming in from Knightdale on 87 southbound. Now looking at just a 9-minute backup between 64 Business and 440. Out of Wake Forest on southbound Capitol Boulevard, about a 10-minute delay as you head toward the 540 interchange. A similar backup coming out of Rollsville on southbound 401. From I-885 in Durham on eastbound 40, heading through the airport exits back toward Cary, about a 5-minute slowdown with congestion and some sun glare delays. And it's also getting busy on US 1 northbound, leaving Apex heading through Cary. We're now measuring about a 9-minute backup through there. Looking a little better on I-40 in both directions through South Durham. In Morrisville, we still have that crash reported on Davis Drive around Little Road, which is not too far from the 540 interchange there. And a quick check of our major approaches into Durham right now, seeing an 11-minute slowdown on 40 eastbound from 15501 out toward the 885 interchange. Most of that's between 54 and 751.
Thank you, Brian. A group of Triangle healthcare workers plans to deliver a petition today calling for an immediate and lasting ceasefire in Gaza. Triangle healthcare workers for Palestine says more than 300 workers in Durham and Orange County signed the petition. They plan to deliver it just in about 15 minutes, 8:30 this morning, to Congressman Valerie Fouchy's office in Durham. They're also requesting a meeting with Fouchy.
We have an update on the wildfires burning in the western part of our state. As of this morning, the Collette Ridge fire is now 71% contained. It's about 5,300 acres, and officials say this weekend's weather did help. Some more good news for the Poplar Drive fire in Henderson. That's now 75% contained. Still about 430 acres covered, though. One home, 2 cabins, and 3 other buildings were destroyed. Some area homes are still threatened there. We are told 2 firefighters sustained minor injuries. Both were treated and released.
An investigation is underway after a house fire in Franklin County. This happened on Gilchrist Farm Road. This is video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker showing the damage left behind. Nobody was home at the time. No word yet on the cause.
Voting rights advocates will be in court this morning, taking aim at North Carolina's felon voting ban. It is a crime to vote or even register to vote while on probation or parole for a felony. Voting rights advocates want to make it so that people can only be charged if they knew what they were doing is wrong. They say people have been given bad information, even by elections officials, and then charged for registering to vote. It's one of many legal fights still ahead of the 2024 elections. For more on this case, you can go to the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com.
Tupac Shakur could win his first Grammy nearly 30 years after his death. Shakur is nominated in the Best Music Film category for his work that was used in the docuseries Dear Mama. He died after being shot in Las Vegas in 1996. 2 other late artists are also nominated in the same category: David Bowie for Moon Age Daydream and Little Richard for I Am Everything.
We're hearing more from the owner of Clyde Cooper's Barbecue in downtown Raleigh. She says she's considering leaving that area after nearly a century of operating downtown. Owner Debbie Holt says downtown Raleigh is neglected and cites 3 main frustrations: crime, harassment, and parking. Parking has been the #1 issue for her. She says customers regularly tell her they have a difficult time finding a space. Holt also says there are people who hang out around her storefront and harass customers. She says the riots back in 2020 have stuck with her for quite some time now. And after a long 2 years of considering a move, Holt says now's the time to start looking.
I do not want people to struggle to come and eat with me. And that's by parking, by harassment from people on the streets, and from crime. I need to make it easy for them to come to me, and I think I can do that.
WRAL spoke with other managers in that area, and each said the same thing. Customers are being harassed and employees don't feel safe. We also heard from Raleigh Mayor Marianne Baldwin. She says the city has taken steps to increase public safety in downtown Raleigh, including more police presence, private security, and public safety ambassadors. She says the feedback she's been hearing has been positive.
House lawmakers have voted to pause a resolution to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Lawmakers dismissed the resolution Monday night by a bipartisan vote of 209 to 201, referring it to the House Homeland Security Committee. This comes after Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene moved to force a vote on her resolution to impeach Mayorkas last week, alleging that he has failed in his duty of managing the U.S.-Mexico border. The House Homeland Security Committee is currently overseeing its own investigation into the secretary's work.
Some of the states that legalized recreational marijuana are also major ports for cruise ships. And now with the holiday travel plans taking shape, cruise operators are reminding people, leave your weed at home. Travel experts say even if you are sailing from port to port of pot-friendly places, recreational marijuana use is a no-go. Also, weed edibles and medical marijuana are not allowed either.
There are cruise lines that sail out of Seattle and they'll stop in Alaska where it's legal and Canada where it's legal, and yet you still cannot have marijuana on board the ships. And I think that there's just something to be said for it's easier to regulate by just straight out saying no.
They will not be cruising the high seas on those cruise ships. Possession of marijuana illegal under federal law in the U.S. Those cruise lines have to follow them.
As you get into your car, tune to WRAL News Plus on your radio. In Raleigh on 99.3 FM. In Durham, 96.5 FM. And everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Time now is 8:26. I'm Michelle McConaughey. Brian Trader tracking some backups on the roads this morning. Brian, where are we talking about?
Well, we're seeing some heavy delays on 87 southbound coming in from Knightdale. We've seen those travel times increasing and decreasing, and now we're up to another busy moment out there with a 17-minute delay coming in from 64 Business toward 440. Watch for a crash on Skycrest Drive near Raleigh Boulevard there, just off the Beltline. We're seeing some heavy delays on 440 westbound this morning as well between 87 and Capitol Boulevard. Also, just in a report of a crash in the RTP area on Miami Boulevard at TW Alexander Drive, and we are seeing some delays in that intersection. Seeing about a 9-minute backup on the eastbound side of I-40 leaving Chapel Hill heading into South Durham with some sun glare delays right now, Elizabeth.
And speaking of sun, we do have some milky sunshine right now. We take a live look at Sanford. You can see just a little bit of cloud cover out there. It's very thin. That's going to be with us on and off today, and it will thicken up later this afternoon. And tomorrow will likely be mostly cloudy, but the rain's still not in the forecast until Friday. Lewisburg at 41, 45 Fayetteville, 49 in South Hill. So temperatures are starting to warm up a little bit from early this morning when we were mostly in the 30s. We'll see highs in the mid-60s this afternoon. Walking the dog this evening, mid-50s.
Thanks, Elizabeth. This morning, some people from the Triangle Jewish community are heading to the nation's capital for the March for Israel. It's happening today from 1 to 3 p.m. on the National Mall. That group left Temple Beth Or for D.C. at 6:30 this morning. And the UNC graduate student accused of shooting and killing his professor is expected to be in court this morning. At Tyler Chee's last court appearance in September, we learned one mental evaluation found him incompetent to stand trial. A second was to be performed, and we hope to hear how that went today. Next on Today, a live sneak peek at the Thanksgiving Day parade.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Breaking at 8:30, I'm tracking crashes in Apex, Durham, and Raleigh. I'll show you the slowdowns and how to get around them.
The man accused of killing a professor on UNC's campus is due in court today, coming up where his case stands this morning.
And a group of people from the Triangle are headed to Washington, D.C. this morning. Why they're taking time out of their day to march for Israel.
And it's a pretty start in downtown Durham. We take a live look here at beautiful blue skies. We'll talk about increasing clouds over the next couple of days and our chance for rain on Friday.
And 11 months after his cardiac arrest on the field, Damar Hamlin was back on the field the moment he makes his first tackle since his injury. It was quite a moment. It's 8:30 right now as we welcome you inside our WRAL studio. I'm Jeff Hogan. My heart was in my throat when I saw that play. They're just seeing him make that tackle, but it's good for him.
I know.
Back on the field. Yeah.
No matter who you're rooting for, you're rooting for him in that moment because it's incredible. So, all right, we're going to get to that story coming up. But first, we got to get over to meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner, taking a look over the Bull City. Another chilly morning out there.
We started into the 30s almost everywhere. Now in the 9 o'clock hour, or 8 o'clock hour, I should say, we're starting to warm things up just a touch. Pretty blue skies here in Durham. You'll likely notice some high, thin cloud cover today. It may be a little thicker the farther south you are, like closer to Fayetteville or Clinton. It's 45 degrees right now in the Triangle area. It is 47 in Clinton, 42 in Rocky Mount, still 36 in Roxborough, but 42 in Southern Pines. Starting to see those temperatures climb. It will feel a lot like it did yesterday afternoon. Highs will be in the mid-60s. We'll see mostly sunny skies, but some high, thin cloud cover. Temperatures this evening in the mid-50s. Still tracking that chance for rain on Friday. I'll show you how it could affect early morning on Saturday. Coming up, Ryan.
It is 8:32 right now. Watching a couple of new crashes that have popped up here in the past couple of minutes. Starting off in Apex with a crash on US 1 northbound right around 1010 Road. Some heavy delays on US 1 northbound begin between the 540 and 55 interchange. Once you get to 1010 Road, though, traffic is flowing pretty well. So if you can pick up US 1 northbound from 1010, should be in good shape heading out towards 64 and Tryon Road. Also just in, a report of a crash on Lewisburg Road near New Hope Road. So far, I'm not seeing any delays showing up on the sensors in that area, but of course with a busy road like Lewisburg Road, we're going to be watching those sensors carefully. Taking a look at our latest sensor readings, picking up about a 5-minute delay with that crash in Apex on US 1 northbound. Coming out of Durham, about a 6-minute slowdown with some sun glare delays heading through the airport exits. Out of Wake Forest, a 9-minute delay on southbound Capitol Boulevard. And in Knightdale, 87 southbound. I think these delays are wrong. That data is coming in a little incorrectly. I don't think it's a 17-minute backup, probably more like a 4 to 5 minute delay with the latest data I've been seeing. I want to take you to RTP with a crash reported at Miami Boulevard at TW Alexander Drive. It looks like we have some heavy traffic, especially on that westbound side of Alexander approaching the Miami Boulevard intersection. And as we check in on our major approaches into Durham right now, again, leaving Raleigh on 40 westbound, there's some heavy traffic around the airport heading into RTP, about a 5-minute delay there. And out of Chapel Hill between 15501 and 885 on 40 eastbound, about a 9-minute slowdown with a lot of sun glare delays.
Thank you, Brian. This morning, the man accused of killing a professor on the campus of UNC Chapel Hill is expected to be back in court. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey explains what we're expecting to learn about Tylee Chi and the case during this hearing today.
Tylee Chi will be back in the courtroom here in Orange County in just a few hours. Today is essentially going to be a status update on his case. Here's a look at video now of his last court appearance back in September. He's accused of killing UNC professor Zijie Yin on campus in August. During Chi's last court appearance, we learned he was found unfit for trial after a mental evaluation. He's received another evaluation since then. Today, we could find out those results. There's a couple of ways this could play out. One, he could be sent to a rehab to see if he could eventually be ready for trial. Then there's also a chance for discussions about whether he can be legally held responsible for this crime due to his mental state. So he's expected to appear in court later this morning. We'll have a crew there and keep you updated. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Orange County.
Also today, tens of thousands of people will gather on the National Mall in D.C. to show support for Israel. And that includes people from right here in the Triangle who are on their way, on the road right now to Washington. WRAL's Laura Levine spoke with some of those folks headed to D.C.
About 100 people parked their cars here at Temple Beth Or Synagogue in Raleigh, loaded up on buses as they left around 6:30 this morning. They're headed to the nation's capital to share a clear and concise message. Buses rolled in before daylight and neighbors grabbed food, cases of water and supplies to embark on this journey.
I feel like right now anti-Semitism is at an all-time high and we have to do something about it. We have to speak up.
For Michelle Fetter, the conflict overseas especially hits home for her.
My husband has been deployed. He is in Israel right now serving. And so if he can leave my 2 babies and my family and leave and risk his life, the least I could do is hold up a sign and go to Washington, D.C.
And that sign she holds close to her chest is to reflect how the group is calling for the immediate release of kidnapped hostages.
This is to show that regardless of your religion, your race, your sexual orientation, your age, it could have happened to you.
And among the group from Raleigh were veterans, rabbis, and college students like Ashley Wolf sharing the same sentiments.
I hope the message is that there are just as many people in America who support Israel as there are Palestine. I think we're deeply divided right now, but I hope people see that there's a good mix of support.
And we want to end this conflict that we know is not going to just be a temporary ceasefire, but something that will build a roadmap for peace after this for both sides.
And the March for Israel is taking place from 1 to 3 p.m. on the Nation Mall in Washington, D.C. The group plans to return back home to Raleigh. They should arrive around 11 o'clock tonight. Laura Levine, WRAL News in Raleigh.
New this morning, Raleigh police have made an arrest in a stabbing at the Glenwood Towers apartments. Police there say they were called to the apartment building just before 10:30 last night. When they arrived, they found a person with a minor stab wound. That person was taken to the hospital for treatment. Police did take a man into custody. They say the two men knew each other. Well, it's been nearly a year since 11-year-old Haley Brooks was killed during the Raleigh Christmas parade. WRAL's Deborah Morgan had the chance to sit down with the Brooks family in a raw and emotional interview. Haley's mother, April Brooks, says her daughter was one of those children who made an impression on everyone she met. The day of the parade back in 2022, the Brooks family was so excited to continue a family tradition, attending the annual Raleigh Christmas parade. And like most anyone in attendance that day, Haley's parents had no idea what happened.
This is not how it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to go to a parade with 3 kids and come home with 2. And absolutely, we're angry about that.
Mm-hmm. It should have never happened.
I think one of our friends told us early on that grief is the cost of love, and the amount of love you have for somebody just makes the grief that much deeper.
And the family says support from their church, the community, the schools, and countless messages and prayers from all over the world is really what's helped them through the darkest of days. But they'll never forget a single moment from that day.
Happening today, city leaders in Raleigh will talk about the upcoming bus rapid transit corridor and how it will operate. The city broke ground last week on the New Bern Avenue corridor. It'll connect downtown, Wake Med, and New Hope Road with a faster bus service. Today, City Council will have a work session to focus on the corridor and how it'll fit into the city's plans for equitable transit. That includes how neighborhood support programs will work with the corridor. Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos played a nail-biter to bring Week 10 of the NFL season to a close. Bills quarterback Josh Allen ran in a touchdown with less than 2 minutes to go. Thought they had it, gave his team a lift right there. 1-point lead, but the Broncos got back down the field, and Will Lutz had a chance to win it with this 41-yarder, but it missed. The Bills, though, got called for a penalty. They had 12 men on the field, so it gave them another chance. The Broncos, this time, they make it 5 yards closer, and the team wins it 24-22, another last-second win on this NFL week. A highlight for the Bills on that final drive by the Broncos, DeMar Hamlin was out there on defense for the first time this season, filling in after an injury. There he is, top of your screen. Russell Wilson throws the pass, tight end catches it, Hamlin makes the tackle. That is just huge. Seems like just a normal play, but this comes 11 months after his cardiac arrest on the field in Cincinnati, which also happened during a Monday night football game.
So great to see him back on the field. Well, coming up, a nonprofit that feeds people experiencing hunger and homelessness is now scrambling to get ready for the holidays. It's plead to the community for help.
And a big difference in the life expectancy between men and women. Why the CDC says the gap has widened.
And this morning, we'll take you out to beautiful White Lake. It's going to be a cloudy morning. You can see peaks of sun there. Elizabeth will tell us our chances for any weekend rain.
A 8:43, we take a live look at Andrew this morning. Beautiful blue sky here. You will notice a slight difference from yesterday. We had this gorgeous blue sky yesterday. Today, we're going to have a little milky sunshine look to it, especially the farther south you go. There's a system that's down on the Gulf of Mexico that's going to send a little bit of cloud cover our way. Tomorrow, it will be more pronounced. Tomorrow, it'll be mostly cloudy. Today, we'll call it mostly sunny. 45 is our temperature around the triangle. We're going to jump to 65, 66 for our high temperature later on today. We'll take a look at temperatures across the area. 39 in Roxborough, 47 Goldsboro, 45 Fayetteville, 42 in Southern Pines. So it's cool, but that sunshine always makes it feel a little better. And we'll jump on into the 60s this afternoon. 66 in Raleigh, 66 in Durham, and 69 for the high in Fayetteville this afternoon. Here's a look at the big picture. You can see the system that's down along the Gulf Coast. A little bit of light rain there, but it's pushing some cloud cover northward. This high pressure system is helping to force some of that cloud cover to the south. Notice how it's getting drawn up on the other side of the high. That high rotates clockwise, and so some of that cloud cover moving up the Mississippi Valley, while we're not seeing as much of it here because we have this northerly flow. That northerly flow keeping our temperatures cool, close to normal, but we'll see a little bit of cloud cover that tries to sneak in, and then eventually tomorrow we're going to see a low moving up the coast and helping to bring us more clouds. Our temperatures are close to normal. You can see the blue shaded color contour. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit below normal. We'll drop it down to around 60, but then we warm up a little bit toward the end of the week and into the weekend. 64 is our normal high, so 60 on Wednesday will be the coolest day this week. But we do jump right back to 71 on Friday, but Friday will be cloudy and we'll be dealing with some scattered showers. Tomorrow, again, as I mentioned, it's going to be cool. Temperatures at game time for the Canes likely to be around low to mid 50s. We're going to be dry, but it will be cloudy. If if you put on a coat, you do a little tailgating, you'll be just fine. Coming out of the arena, 49. I mean, most people sit in the arena with a jacket on anyway for hockey because it's chilly in there. Let's talk about Friday. We have the system that'll move up the coast, bringing us some showers during the afternoon and evening and overnight on Friday. The heaviest rain will be in eastern North Carolina, so especially east of I-95. We also at 6 p.m. on Friday have a bunch of rain in the mountains, but watch what happens as it tries to slide eastward. Most of it fizzles out. So on this model, we're drying out for Saturday. Right now, it's looking pretty good for the Christmas parade on Saturday with clearing skies during the afternoon, but the models are still not completely consistent about that. So put 20% on for 8 o'clock in the morning. Our coverage begins at 9 and the parade starts at 9:30. Parade time temperatures will be right around 60, and at the end of the parade in the upper 60s with increasing sunshine. Saturday tree lightings look just fine for Fenton and North Hills. Lighting time around 62 degrees, and we'll see partly cloudy skies. Now, we do have a lot of tree lightings that are on Friday evening as well. That's likely to be a good bit wetter. The rest of the weekend, once we get past early Saturday morning, looks nice and dry with some sunshine, but some cooling temperatures. Looking at Monday, only mid-50s.
And breaking here in the WRAL Live Center, the highly anticipated Consumer Price Index report released in the last 15 minutes, and you can see the headlines here, which is some good news, actually. The inflation was flat in October from the prior month of September. Also, the core CPI lower than expected. This is actually providing a hopeful sign because this is a key indicator that the Federal Reserve uses in terms of what to do with interest rates when they meet in December. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the major indices ahead of that CPI report. Now that it's out, you can see the major indices, the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, the pre-market numbers are still in the positive territory. Of course, we'll have the opening numbers during our 9 o'clock hour here on Fox 50.
Ken, thanks for that. Early this morning, the U.S. Army conducted a dignified transfer for 2 of the 5 soldiers who died in a helicopter crash Friday. Army Staff Sergeant Tanner Groen and Army Sergeant Andrew Southard died in the helicopter crash over the Mediterranean Sea. The Department of Defense reported the helicopter crashed while conducting an aerial refueling training mission. The transfers took place at the Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. The U.S. Army Special Operations Command is headquartered at Fort Liberty, but none of the soldiers who died was based there.
North Carolina's Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson is in Israel. He's traveling with the North Carolina Faith and Freedom Coalition. A social media post says his visit is to show support for the Jewish people. In the past, Robinson has been accused of making anti-Semitic posts on social media, including a 2017 post where he implied that the widely accepted figure of 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis is false. Robinson said in a recent speech the trip will last about 3 days and that it was planned before the October 7th attack by Hamas.
Two Wilson men are charged in connection to a drive-by shooting and attempted murder. When Wilson police responded to Vance Street on Friday afternoon, witnesses told them two people shot into a home and a car they were in. Laking Smith and Kelsey Barnes were taken to the Wilson County Jail and given no bond. They both face 7 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 46 counts related to shooting a gun to incite fear. No one was injured, and that investigation continues.
People who live in the West Haven neighborhood of Fayetteville are back in their homes this morning after a gas leak forced evacuations Monday afternoon. That gas leak has been fixed. This is video from the WRAL breaking news tracker of the neighborhood on Stony Point Road. Officials tell us a construction crew hit the gas line. School buses could not drop children off, and several had to be turned around and sent back to their schools.
Iceland is under a state of emergency over the threat of volcanic eruptions. Authorities say nearly 900 earthquakes were detected near the town of Grindavik. It's in the southern part of that country, and it all happened within a 12-hour span yesterday. And this is all coming after about 1,000 were detected Sunday. An evacuation order is in effect for people in that town. A major eruption there could disrupt air travel around the world. That happened back in 2010.
A vital source of food for the hungry and homeless in downtown Raleigh is now scrambling ahead of the holiday season. Shepherd's Table Ministry on West Morgan Street lost 2 months worth of surplus food after its freezer broke. Director Tammy Gregory says the defrosting mechanism failed. So not only did they lose their surplus perishables, but the walk-in freezer also had to be fixed. The nonprofit says it now needs help from the community more than ever.
By sending donations, help us fill our freezer back up to capacity, and so we'll be able to make it through these next couple tough months.
Gregory says that she hopes businesses that are holding Christmas parties or luncheons will also think about the less fortunate and write a check to help.
Pop singer Pink is giving away thousands of banned books. She says she'll give away about 2,000 books during this show this week in Florida. She is working with the PEN America's Index of Banned Books for a project. The group says Florida has the highest number of book ban cases in schools.
New data shows that American women are expected to live almost 6 years longer than men. The CDC says life expectancy between men and women in the U.S. widened significantly during the pandemic. The CDC says that's mainly due to differences in mortality rates from COVID-19. Back in 2021, life expectancy for women was 79 years compared with 73 years for men, the largest difference since 1996.
A popular North Carolina ski resort is pushing back its opening day because of above-average temperatures. Appalachian Ski Mountain in Blowing Rock will not open this Friday as they had hoped. The resort made the announcement Monday. This is what it looks like right there, right now. No snow in sight. A new opening date has not been announced yet. Beach Mountain Ski Resort is set to open its ski slope next Friday, and no word on Sugar Mountain Ski Resort's plans just yet.
Chuck E. Cheese is getting rid of nearly all of its animatronic bands. One band will still remain at a location in Los Angeles where the band will establish a permanent residency. The animatronics are a staple for many millennials who spent birthdays at that restaurant. I know I did. This comes as horror movie Five Nights at Freddy's, a movie about similar fictional animatronics, continues to do pretty well in the box office.
Stars of Ted Lasso reunited for a good cause and wowed the internet with a powerful duet. Hey, leave wanting more, right? I just want to hear more of that. Hannah Waddingham, Jason Sudeikis singing Shallow by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. It happened at a fundraiser benefiting a group that provides prosthetic care to amputees, and they belted that out.
Good.
Super.
That's so impressive. I love it. All right, a lion we first told you about yesterday is taking a well-deserved nap after roaming the streets of Italy. Kimba, the lion, escaped from a circus in the seaside town of Lazzapoli on Saturday. New video shows him strolling through the streets for almost 7 hours before he was eventually caught. Officials at the Roni Roller Circus say they're not too sure how Kimba escaped. He's now back at the traveling circus, and local authorities are investigating how he escaped. All right, before we go to break, here are your winning lottery numbers. We'll get another check on weather and traffic next.